What's up, guys? In this month, we're going to be talking to you about emergency fat loss shortcuts. This is really exciting because it's a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that the fitness gurus do, but they don't tell you. This is basically, we're going to tell you how you can lose a good amount of fat and a good amount of weight in just a few weeks if you have some kind of special event coming up. So, Mike, why is this stuff important for guys to know?
Because people are always invited to places, and a lot of times they're not ready or not in the best shape of their life, and they run into situations where they gotta take off their shirt.
Yeah.
So it happens to me all the time. I know it happens to you. Sometimes it could be a wedding, could be a party, but the more important ones is when you have to take off your shirt, and usually maybe like at a pool party or to the beach or maybe on vacation somewhere. But you don't want to be embarrassed, especially when you may have people that may be around that you want to impress, right?
Exactly.
So you don't want them to go, oh, So you got to know some shortcuts. Keep in mind, these aren't long-term solutions. These are shortcuts for you to lose the most amount of weight, and it's pretty extreme. So keep that in mind. But it will help you get ready for that big day.
Yeah, and I have to say that, this stuff, it is pretty extreme, as you said, but it's very, very effective, where if you only have 3 weeks and you got to look better than you look right now in 3 weeks, this is the only way to do it. It's going to get you ripped. It's going to make a pretty significant difference pretty fast. And if you have some type of special occasion going up, this is really the only way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've done this plenty of times. I try to stay in pretty good shape year round, but most of the time, I come to situations to where I gotta look even better than better than normal, and I gotta start scrambling around. And I usually got maybe a week or 2 weeks. So you'll find that some of the things that you have to do within these 2 weeks are gonna be different than your normal fitness lifestyle. So the tricks we're gonna show you today and to talk about are gonna be some of the things, like Dan said, you're not gonna really learn from magazines. You're not gonna learn anywhere else, because this is kind of behind the scenes. What fitness models do to get ready for shoots, what bodybuilding builders do to get ready for a show, and what normal guys like us do to get ready for like the beach or the pool parties.
Yeah. Cool. So this month we have some really great stuff for you. Really excited to be bringing you this, because I think it can make a really big difference if you have a special occasion coming up. This week we're going to be telling you about the 4-word secret, which is going to get you ripped and shredded pretty much faster than anything else you could ever possibly do. Next week we're going to be giving you 3 of our secret recipes, which me and Mike do when we're really trying to cut fat. These are things which taste great and have very low amounts of calories. So you're going to get, you're going to get shredded pretty fast, and you're not going to feel like you're going on some type of extreme diet. After that, we're going to give you 2 quick fat-blasting workouts. These are workouts which anybody can do. They're really quick. Relative to a lot of other stuff, they're not that hard, and they're going to get you shredded fast and really going to aid in those fat loss efforts. And in the final week, what I'm most excited for is we're going to give you our advanced fat loss workout. This one is very intense. This one is, crazy intense.
It's hard.
But if you can do it, then this is going to really aid in that fat loss and really get you shredded faster than anything you could possibly do.
There was this time when I went to South Padre, and a friend of mine called me and invited me. It was gave me maybe 2.5 weeks, notice, which is actually pretty long for sometimes, people usually drop the bomb on you a lot sooner than that. But it gave me 2.5 week notice, and he was like, Mike, let's go to South Padre. And I was like, God, I want to go, but, I'm not really ready. And he was like, well, just go ahead and get ready. You got 2.5 weeks. So, actually it was pretty interesting, because he actually taught me one of the recipes that we're going to be showing you soon on how to go ahead and rip up really, really fast. But again, this is just one of the situations that you may run into to where you got to look your best. So this is some real life stuff we're going to tell you.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember seeing some pictures from you on that trip.
Yeah.
And, you looked awesome. You looked ripped. And I would have to say, guys thinking about, is it really going to be worth it to do that much?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Was it worth it?
It was definitely worth it, because I was going through some extreme stuff for 2.5 weeks, but I was on that trip for about 4 days. Yeah. And, you saw the pictures, right? Yeah. You're going to have pictures, you're going to have all these memories, and you want to look your best. It may be kind of tough to go through it, because this is some extreme shortcuts, but on that big day, when you're having fun, when you're kicking back, relaxing, I'm drinking beer, I'm having a good time, and I look down, and stomach looks great, and I was just, man, thank God I made it. There's all these times where I wanted to break the diets, or I wanted to go ahead and just stop it, but I just kept striving on, and just kind of remember, if the day's important enough for you and you got to look your best, stick to it. So
exactly. And I know, if you're doing the regular 6-pack shortcut stuff, then you're going to look good. But if you're doing this on top of that for the last couple of weeks, it's going to be a difference between just, being another good looking guy at the beach and being the guy who turns heads and really gets a lot of attention without really having to do anything.
This can actually be a really good way sometimes for for guys to go ahead and get started on the program too.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that a lot of guys, a lot of you guys might have gotten this program because you may have something that you're planning already or something that you're invited to, and you're like, well, I got to go ahead and look my best. Let me find a program that's going to help me out. If that's the case, this will be a perfect way to do it. Just keep in mind, it's short term, but really good way to kind of jumpstart you.
Exactly. And, I had a similar situation where I had to cut weight for jiu-jitsu. I had a tournament coming up in 2 weeks. I weighed 165 pounds, and I had to weigh 155 pounds in 2 weeks. And, very important that I do that in the healthiest possible way, because not only do I have to weigh 155 pounds, but I have to be, athletically competitive at my best.
You gotta still have performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Starving and, dying in there.
Exactly. So I really wish I had this, at the time. It would have helped me out a lot. So let's go into some of the other factors in this. So how long do you think a guy would need at the minimum to do this? And what's the most you should be doing this for?
The minimum, you want to give yourself probably about 2 days or so. I mean, that's pretty short notice, but you'll find that if you go ahead and follow this, you're going to see some pretty extreme results. But obviously, the longer time you have to get ready, the better shape you're going to be. Keep in mind though, you don't really want to do this for really much longer than a month, just because of the extremity of the diets and how the workouts are going to be pretty intense. After about a month or so, you want to give yourself a break. So minimum about 2 days. The maximum you want to stay on this program will be for about a month.
And if a guy was doing this as kind of a jump start to start this program off, how long would you recommend he do this for, so that the majority of the weight that he's losing is fat and not just water?
You want to stay on it for a maximum about a month or so. Keep in mind, because you have the Six Pack Shortcuts program, and that program is actually a very good program to get you results. So this will just kind of be a jumpstart way. If you stay on this longer than a month, the results aren't going to be much better, and you'll find that you're not going to get all the nutritions, or you're not going to have that balanced fitness lifestyle that you need.
Okay, Mike, so I know one thing you talk about in the main Six Pack Shortcuts program is that as a lifestyle, you don't really use any diet pills or fat burners as a lifestyle. But right. I know as a short-term thing, I have seen you use fat burners. Yeah. Can you talk about why that is and why you recommend it as a short-term thing?
For short-term, fat burners are pretty effective, just because they give you the energy that you need when you're really low in calories, when you're on this shortcut program. But also, it lets your body releases most of its water. So this way you don't retain a lot of water weight, and it gives you that appearance of looking leaner, and makes your muscles come out more. So fat burners are good for this, but you'll see in the program that I don't really encourage taking fat burners in the long run, just because it gives you a false sense of having a higher metabolism, a false sense of being in better shape than you actually are. So, but for something like this, short term, definitely a good way to go ahead and kind of get jump started.
Yeah, definitely. I think, all the things you talked about in the supplement video in the Six Pack Shortcuts program, all that definitely applies, where, in the long term, it's going to lead to a caffeine addiction, and, you're going to have trouble getting energy without it. But if you're only using it for 2 weeks, that's not really long enough for any of that stuff to happen, so it can really help out.
Yeah, and as far as what type of fat burners to take, there's so many different fat burners coming out every single month. So there's not really any preference that I have. Honestly, I haven't taken fat burners for a little while now, so I really don't even know exactly the latest ones that are out. Just keep in mind, most fat burners are going to be pretty similar, and everybody's bodies respond a little different to it. So if you want, you can go ahead. If you go to a supplement store, a lot of times they may have samples, and some of the new ones that are out. Grab a couple samples, try them out, and kind of just see for yourself. Some of them may give you the jitters, some of them may not work at all for you. So just kind of play that by ear and kind of see. But just keep in mind, you're only going to be taking it for a maximum of about a month. So so don't waste all your money on it.
And I know one that I've tried, I have some personal experience with, is Hydroxycut Hardcore, which is probably one of the most popular ones. With that, my experience was, once I took it, the good thing I'll say about it is, once you take that, it's going to be impossible to not work out, or sit down, or stand still, or do anything where you're just sitting there. The bad part is, for the first couple weeks I didn't see any side effects, but I took it for 3 or 4 weeks, and I had to stop because I couldn't sleep and I was real jittery. But for the first couple weeks I was good. So, that's an example of one you could try. So let's talk about some other factors in here. Water. I know when you're ripping up real fast, I've seen that you carry around a gallon of water and just drink it all the time.
Yeah, because you're losing water weight.
Yeah.
When you're taking fat burners, you lose water weight. So even though you like that because this way you look better, but you got to make sure your body still has that water. Just because we're for regular functions. So what I usually do is I carry around a big gallon of water with me. If you like, big gallon of water, water bottles of water, whatever it takes, and make sure you stay very hydrated. Because being on those fat burners, you're going to constantly lose water. I mean, you're going to feel like you're going to, going to a restroom like every 30 minutes. So make sure you're very, very hydrated.
Yeah, and I think, carrying around that gallon is a really good kind of a psychological technique to make you drink the whole thing too. Because I know if I'm trying to drink a gallon of water and I'm drinking like the little bottles, it just seems like so much because I have to drink like 10.
Yeah, you feel like I went through so many bottles and really, a bottle's like 2 sips.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, cool. So the fat burner, you want to drink a lot of water. So finally, before we get into like the specifics of how to do this, what should guys expect when they go on this program?
All right, so some of the things you may expect when you're going through this fat loss shortcut is you're going to lose a little bit of focus in your workouts, a little bit of strength, and also a little bit of the pumps, just because of your change in diet. And it's perfectly normal, so just keep that in mind. If you're following this program right, those are some of the things you're going to experience. Another thing you're going to experience would be water weight, and because they lose a lot of water when they're on this. So when you actually start on a regular program again, following the 6-pack shortcuts program, you're going to gain a lot of the water weight back. Yeah,
I think that's a really important point too, because like all the things that you mentioned, they're really a normal part of this program because it is such an extreme fat loss program. A lot of guys kind of panic when this stuff happens, but realize as long as it's like within moderate bounds, and this is a normal part of the program, you're not doing anything wrong, don't panic. Especially, say you were on this for a month and you lose 10 pounds and you gain 3 pounds back like the day after. Again, that's normal because we're going so low on the carbohydrates here. Some of the weight you're losing is going to be water. So you are going to gain some of it back immediately after you go off this. That's okay. You're still going to lose some fat if you're on this for any amount of time.
So here's the thing, guys. You probably watch the Zero Willpower Eating System, and you'll find that we do eat carbohydrates in there. So this is the shortcut to fat loss. So this is the emergency fat loss. So keep this in mind. We're not telling you that the Atkins diet or the no-carb eating plan is the best diet out there, because you can't sustain this very long. And me and Darren were just talking about this. One of the main reasons why Atkins diets are so big, because people get on there, they lose weight immediately, right?
Like 2 weeks, just like,
So cutting out all carbohydrates. Yeah. So, but I'm gonna tell you guys now though, carbohydrates, if you eat a lot of carbs, it does make you fat, especially the more processed ones like bread, white rice, or any type of sugar or stuff like that. But when you don't eat carbohydrates though, what it also does is carbohydrates hold a lot of water. So when you don't eat carbohydrates, it allows your body not to hold any water at all. So remember, you get the fat burners that's not holding water, it's helping your body get rid of water. You don't eat any carbohydrates to go ahead, so this way your body can't hold any water. So now, if water takes up about 70% of your body, so now without water, you're gonna immediately drop a lot of weight, which is why people on the Atkins diet, see so much success, usually in the first couple weeks. But, what happens to people that stay on the Atkins diet for too long?
Eventually they end up gaining it back, and
you gain all of it back, and so just keep in mind though, but for extreme fat loss solution, we're going to suggest cutting out all the carbs.
Yeah, and I think, it's just 4 words, but that's like, for me, that's such invaluable advice. I wish I knew that back when I had to cut 10 pounds in 3 weeks, because, the way I did it was just generally trying to eat a little bit less calories, a little bit less of this, a little bit less of that. Didn't work, and it led to a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering. Well, it's this way, very simple and far more effective than just going down in calories.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that actually? Like, why is it carbohydrates specifically out of like all the macronutrients? Why is it that guys have to cut out carbohydrates and not like fat and protein?
Well, because most carbohydrates, they're the fastest nutrient that turns into fat in your body, because they break down into sugar the fastest. But there is actually one good carbohydrate source that you can actually continue to eat while you're on this extremely fat loss, and that's vegetables. Everything else, including pastas, brown rice, every good carbohydrate source you won't be able to eat when you're on this, but vegetables you can. So, but besides that though, everything else you want to go ahead and cut out. So when you're making your Zero Willpower meals, just go ahead and prep them without the carbohydrates, and you can replace it with vegetables. But also, you're going to find in the next parts that we're going to be introducing some cool recipes that you can replace in your Zero Willpower meals. That's going to go ahead and make your meals taste good, but at the same time, cut out all the carbs.
Yeah, and I think that's very important for psychological reasons too, because I know when I was just trying to generally eat a little bit less of everything, When you're hungry, then your perspective is a little bit skewed, and you're like, maybe that is a little bit less, and it's really not that much less, and you're really kind of eating the same amount of everything. But this way, it's like very simple. You eat the same portions of everything as you usually do, no carbs, and really simplifies things and helps you to stick to it. Okay, Mike, so now let's talk about the specific foods which we're not going to be eating at all when we're doing this extreme fat loss plan. What do guys just have to avoid at all costs?
Well, like we said, rice, potatoes, cereals, any type of bars. Another thing actually is fruits and any type of juices. Just because a lot of times guys don't really think of those as carbohydrates, but those have a lot of sugar in it. And regularly fruits are okay to eat, but in this case we have to cut them out completely also.
Definitely. And I would have to say, the absolute worst things, like if you're breaking down and you have to eat like a little bit of fruit, then it's not good, but better than some things. What you absolutely must avoid, or you're going to like sabotage all these efforts, white flour. That's going to kill it. White rice, potatoes, you definitely have to avoid that. Like if you can just avoid those three things, and sugar, like sugar is definitely going to kill you too. Like those four things, you got to cut it out altogether during this 4 weeks, or else you're not going to see the
a lot of different snacks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Crackers, cookies. I mean, you're not supposed to eat those anyways. But any type of snacks usually have a lot of white flour.
Yeah.
So gotta avoid those.
And just really think about the flour, especially because in the American diet, like flour is in everything. So like really pay attention to what you're eating and think like, does this have flour in it? And during these like 2-3 weeks or whatever you're doing it for, just don't eat that. It's only a few weeks and it's not going to kill you.
Yeah, and it's worth it at the end.
Definitely.